So again, this is another. This is going to be
Ooh.
another fun little poll thing. So I was talking about this the other day, sort of jokingly in poll chat in the Roost, and I sort of thought, it would actually be kind of fun to do this. So today we're going to talk about the Biden cabinet secretary power rankings. So I've gone through all
My
16.
God.
I've gone through all 16 of the Biden cabinet nominees slash I guess quite a few of them are confirmed now, but not all of them. Um, and gone through and ranked them from least exciting to most exciting, and given a little overview
Oh,
of
I thought
them.
you were thinking. That's so that's so boring compared to. I thought you were going to talk about who would win in a fight.
Oh, we can talk about that too.
That's what I want.
Oh, that'll be fun. Let's talk about that too. um,
So, we'll wait till after.
yeah,
We'll
we'll
wait
wait
till
till
after.
after. We'll wait till after. That sounds good. Okay, so I'm gonna. So, I'm a little sad that I didn't get to this. I'm a little sad that I didn't get to this while Nessa was here because the first person is actually relevant to her and she might actually know him. But I thought this was important to talk about because this is something that people don't really talk about that much during presidential transitions, and it ends up being really important, and it ends up impacting a lot of things and people more directly than most things in the federal government. So let's go through each of the departments and talk about their new incoming cabinet secretaries. So again, we're starting from least exciting to most exciting, and our first cabinet secretary is Governor of Rhode Island. Um, okay, that's fine. Yeah, Governor of Rhode Island, Gina Raimondo. So this is probably the most confusing Biden pick. I don't really know why Biden would pick this woman at all, because she is probably the least one of the least popular governors in the United States. um, she it seems to be broadly competent, maybe, I guess. I don't really know. All I can really say is that everything I've ever heard about her, especially from when I was living in Boston, is that basically just like Rhode Islanders don't really want her anymore. Um, but she's been kind of imposed upon them by the Democratic machine in Rhode Island because that's just how it works. And so she's in the Department of Commerce, which is probably an okay place for her, since the Department of Commerce is really just I believe that they just sort of do like interstate trade and maybe even international trade. So it's the thing that impacts average people probably less than other departments. Um, but yeah, she's not great. She's a venture capitalist. She is super hated by Rhode Island, and she is friends with Bloomberg. So, not a fan. We'll see how this goes. Probably we'll hear nothing about her because, again, the Department of Commerce is just kind of whatever. It's easily one of the least impactful cabinet positions. So, I don't know. We'll see.
In theory, I like this, but in practice, I don't.
Yeah, I don't know. Eh,
I like what he was going for in that it's like a venture capitalist who's into politics, but
yeah, I know. It's just
this
like,
is not the one.
yeah, it's not a great choice. Not a great choice. Anyways, next up is good old Mayor Peter Paul Montgomery Buttigieg. Good old Mayor Pete.
I like Buttigieg,
I
so
like
I'm glad that
him.
he's
Yeah.
in this position where he can't do that much damage.
that's that's a good
I
way.
don't like
That's a
that.
good way to put it.
I don't like that this is something that could be a source of greatness, and it's just kind of going to him to keep him out of the way.
Yeah.
It could possibly be that he has plans for transportation because obviously this was part of the deal to get him to drop out of the race, right? Like that's
Oh,
transparent.
100%. I mean, so the thing is, when I was first sort of speculating like what Mayor Pete might end up doing in the Biden administration, because like it was pretty obvious that this was sort of the end game here, I was sort of thinking, oh, he would be a good fit for VA. He's a veteran.
Right,
I'm sure has
veteran.
interacted with the system. I'm sure he knows how screwed up it is. Like, and it would be good to have someone in the VA who's not just another old white guy, right? So I was just like, Pete Buttigieg,
White
great.
guy.
I mean, he's still white and he's still a guy, but he's at least gay. I don't know. So I don't know. Department of
A
Transportation.
veteran.
And yeah, I think Muya makes a good point in chat here that lawmakers pick that he hates it when lawmakers pick senators, governors slash representatives in seats that they're not at least 80% likely to win the election it will cause. Yeah, that is the one thing that I will say about picking Raimondo is that there will most definitely be another Democrat in Rhode Island. Like that is a lock. So it really doesn't matter. In fact, it's probably good because Rhode Islanders don't want her. So get someone else in there. So, anyways, Mayor Pete, he'll probably do fine. I'm going to be perfectly honest, he'll probably do fine. I don't have any reason to believe it's going to be too much of a problem. He's probably just going to enact the memos that are put on his desk. But I don't know. He's like
I'm kind of hoping he does something exciting.
I do
I know that
too.
he
My
cannot do anything exciting.
my expectations are low.
I want him to. I want him to. But I
It's
mean,
yeah.
Dustin has converted me to a big fan of transportation and government transportation in general.
Oh
So
yeah.
like,
I no 100%
I just
agree.
want it.
I I I appreciate your optimism, and I really do hope it's the case because Department of Transportation is probably one of the least sexy departments, and I hope that he can sex it up a little bit. But he also just I don't know.
I
It's
mean,
a
look at him.
weird fit. It's a weird fit, and I'm not really here for it. He was going to be in the administration one way or another. It's fine to put him in transportation. I don't think it's going to be bad. It's just not going to be that amazing.
I thought Veterans Affairs would have been so good, but I guess we'll
I
see who
agree.
the VA is.
Well, turns out it's the next is the next one. So the
Uh,
Secretary of the VA, former Obama White House Chief of Staff Dennis McDonough. This is another pick that I'm just kind of like, huh. So the good news is
they
he's
could have swapped him and nobody would have
a
noticed.
right. I don't know. Like the good news is this guy's a silver fox. He's kind of hot, and he's a competent Obama era official. Like usually chiefs of staff have to deal with a lot of shit, but the thing about chiefs of
And
staff in general
stories.
is they tend not to be administrators. I mean, they are kind of, but they tend to be like action people. It's much more about enacting policy that you are sort of that is handed down to you than it is about like administering a department. So I'm a little bit like, and also he's a civilian. He's never done any kind of military service. So it's a little strange to me that they would pick him because he has no real connection to the VA at all. Maybe it's a good
I
thing.
wonder if maybe they're hoping that'll fix it
Right. I mean,
because
maybe
it's
it's a
been
good
stuck for
right.
so long.
Right. Maybe it's a good thing that he's an outsider and he'll look at it and say, "No, no, no, this needs to be fixed." But at the same time, I would kind of hope that they would want to pick someone with military experience because they would be a little more motivated because it's something that impacts them directly. I don't know. It's a double. It seems like a double-edged sword. We'll see. I think that this is probably the lowest profile department in the entirety of the federal government, because unless there's a scandal or we're in the middle of like a real ass war, no one pays attention to the VA. So I imagine we're not going to hear very much about it. But at the same time, I don't know. That's not great either because shit needs to happen. I,
Think that national security is the right thing for VA. I have friends who work in national security.
mm,
It's the priorities are very much wrong. This is really more. I mean, when you say VA to me, I'm thinking healthcare. I'm thinking unemployment benefits.
right,
I'm thinking like keeping people alive, keeping people sane, and keeping people happy.
right.
I don't understand what national security has to do with that.
Me
I
neither.
don't understand. I just don't see it. And I mean, even if you're like, oh, you gotta put a veteran in the Veterans Affairs. Even if you defy that, I would think maybe, you know, psychotherapist
A doctor, yeah. I don't
or
know. I just
a doctor.
I will say this is a theme. We'll talk a little bit about this.
Ooh,
There's a lot of choices in this administration where the experience doesn't quite match up with the position, which is normal. But it's annoying because there's also a lot of cases where the experience and the position mesh perfectly. So I don't know. We can talk about the overall consequences of that in a minute, but it's very confusing. Yeah, the optics of assigning a non-military guy to the VA aren't great. I agree, 100%. It's a really strange pick. I'm curious to hear what pundits have to say about him, and I mean, let's kind of hope to God that we don't hear about him. But I do want to know why this choice was made. Anyways, next up, my least favorite department, the DHS, Department of Homeland Security. So I will say the nominee for this, or I think he's been confirmed, the former director of USCIS, which is the United States Citizenship and Immigration Services, and former deputy secretary of DHS. So he's had a similar job in the past. Alejandro Mayorkas, I believe. I think that he is Greek Cuban. Um, he's an interesting pick. I think he's good. I think he's really experienced, and I appreciate that he has a direct background in immigration, because DHS now basically deals with immigration exclusively. But the issue that I have with this is mostly just the fact that this department shouldn't exist in the first place. The Department of Homeland Security, other than no, the Department of Homeland Security is easily the most fucked up department in the entirety of the U.S. government.
It's pretty bad.
It's awful.
Yeah.
It's literally just. I mean, for those of you who don't really know the history of the Department of Homeland Security, it was created in like 2001 or 2002, I think, by the Bush administration. And they basically were like, we need to show people that we're not going to have another 9/11. So we're going to make a department that is specifically like about preventing 9/11 again. And what they ended up doing is
Anti-terrorism.
they had to cannibalize a bunch of existing, like a bunch of existing services and departments from other parts of the federal government in order to actually put together the DHS. And so what is
And if
created.
you know there's one thing that the government needs more of, it's bureaucracy.
Yeah, and the DHS is like bureaucracy on steroids. So it's basically just like this hodgepodge of stubs of other parts of the U.S. government that have been just glommed together, because they pulled from the DoD, they pulled from the Department of Justice, they pulled from the NHS, or they pulled from or not the NHS, they pulled from the INS, they from intelligence. They just sucked in whatever they could suck in. And so the biggest issue that I had is when I was working in immigration, we interacted with USCIS, the immigration folks, a lot. And the big problem is that they are, because they're part of DHS and not part of the State Department or even the Justice Department, is that they're cut off from the rest of like the immigration machine. So, for example, if you are getting a visa to come into the United States from outside the US, you go to a consulate or an embassy. The consulate and the embassy are controlled by the Department of State, and they issue you the initial visa. However, the moment you come into the country, the moment you land, you never make contact with the State Department again. From that point forward, it is entirely the Department of Homeland Security. And it's either Border Patrol, CBP, who are fucking terrible. CBP needs to basically they just all need to be fired, and just they need to hire a completely new set of people, because the Border Patrol is awful. Or USCIS, which is like the domestic immigration folks, and they don't talk to each other. USCIS and DHS in general and the State Department don't talk to each other. So if there's some kind of like change made internally at USCIS to immigration policy, the State Department doesn't know about it. So you can get different answers from the State Department and from USCIS for the same person with the same qualifications and the same visa. Happens all the time. And even internally within Department of Homeland Security, they don't communicate. So, like, if you have someone who has a valid visa that's been approved by USCIS, like everything is good, then you go to CBP, you go to the border, and you process it. Usually you're Canadian if you're doing this. They can still reject you, and they do that. It happens more than you would think. So it's a mess, and I don't really have much faith that this guy's going to do anything about it, because he's been in the job before, and he's probably not going to want to change things. He seems competent,
Oh.
but I don't foresee there being a lot of change here. So we'll see.
I'm afraid of old heads. That's
Yeah,
what I'm afraid of.
I just I
They
don't.
haunt my nightmares.
I'm just not a fan. Anyways, so moving on, Secretary of Defense. This is probably yeah. So he's a retired 4-star general of the U.S. Army. He worked in the Command Control Center, I believe, sort of at the end of his career. Mr. Lloyd Austin of Georgia. He is the first African American in this position, which I was at first thinking like, but what about Colin Powell? But then I realized Colin Powell was Secretary of State. Um,
Oop.
and I don't know. He's kind of like the cliche DoD pick. He's black, which is cool, but otherwise he's. I mean, he's a retired general. It's fine. It'll probably be
Yeah.
fine. I don't imagine there will be any problem. Really, the issue that I have here is I hate the DoD. Not as much as I hate the Department of Homeland Security, but the DoD is just they're just a money vacuum, and it's just like all the money just goes to the DoD and it just disappears. It's just gone. There's just the money is gone. So
One thing I'm always worried about with African American people, I
mhm,
should say black, in positions of power,
mhm,
is that you always got to hold your breath when you're talking about or with them,
mhm.
because they are at any moment about to say something incredibly stupid, and you just have to grit your teeth and be like, it's representation. People are allowed to have alternate beliefs, but a lot of those people just the conservatism just jumped out, and that's
I see
I
what
don't
you
know
mean.
this person
I see what you mean.
specifically,
Okay.
but I have met more than enough Trump supporting black people in my neighborhood to be wary whenever I see someone who is older and black and in a position of power, because that's not your classic black community.
That's
They are removed.
true. That's true. Yeah, I mean, I suppose I have a little bit of a different experience with that because growing up in Atlanta, a lot of the black leadership that I've seen has been in Atlanta. But that's a really different
True, that might be
situation.
different.
That's a
Yeah,
really different situation because the black community in Atlanta has conservative social values. I mean, not even universally, but has
it's a
there's a
tighter subculture.
right. There's a core conservative social value there, but at the same time, they are also wildly progressive compared to a lot of other blocks. So most of the time, if you sort of see like Keisha Bottoms, for example, the mayor of Atlanta, is she still the mayor of Atlanta? I don't know. She was going to get tapped by the Biden administration. I don't think that happened. Um, she is very much a dyed in the wool Democrat, and I mean, I don't know. Atlanta's maybe it's partially that Atlanta's an anomaly, but it is really different. But at the same time, it can be different.
I
I
think
get
DC's
where
an
you're coming
anomaly.
from. I get where you're coming from. I think part of the problem there too is that a lot of people, the assumption about African Americans is that they're a political monolith. And while I think that African
It's
Americans
true.
tend to vote together, I don't think they tend to agree with each other on a lot of things. I, of course, am as white as a lily, as you can see, so I cannot really be the one to talk on behalf of all African Americans. But in my experience, there is a huge range of diversity of thought within the Black community, and people
Wider
don't
than in
just
the
don't
white
understand
community.
that. People just don't understand that, and it makes it really difficult to confront it if there is an issue, if there are problematic views, because there's a lot of people who, mostly honestly, people outside of the Black community, who come in and are just like, you can't say that to a Black person, and it's just like, okay,
The paternalism.
if they're wrong, we should be able to call them out for it. It doesn't matter that they're Black. It's just like you're kind of babying them because you think that just because they're Black, we should just sort of be broadly accepting, when really what we should do is bring everyone up together. And like, I agree, I think we need to put more Black people in positions of power, and give more opportunity across the board. But at the same time, we
Don't make
shouldn't
them
be
fight for it.
we shouldn't be we shouldn't be coddling people. That's my biggest
I
issue.
actually want to say I don't like the language of coddling and babying, because I don't think that's what's happening. And I think that kind of gives a free rein for people to do these kinds of things as long as they're not coddling or babying.
Mm,
What I see happening, and as someone who has been immersed in Black spaces and left those spaces and been to other different kinds of Black spaces,
mm,
a lot of the time what happens is these white people truly just never manage to leave the headspace of believing that white people's political views are the important topics of discussion, and black people's political views are just sort of taken for granted, and that they can learn about them in the book and say them and speak for them.
I
Because a
think
lot of the
that's a
times
really good point.
you're in a white space talking to other white people about what black people want, and it's
Right.
difficult to leave that headspace
Right.
and then get into one where it's more diverse and black people are telling you what they want.
Right.
And this is, I think, why conservative ideas have held so well in the black community over the last 4 years that I've seen. And even, I mean, there was always a root, but they've started branching out because it's like they're so annoyed with us,
Right.
you and I, talking about what they want.
Right. And I think the thing
They're
that's
tired of it.
I think the thing that's kind of ironic is that even though there's a lot more just straight up racists in like on the right wing, especially in the U.S. right wing, there's also a lot more people who are willing to just be like, if you agree with me, great. Let's be friends. I don't care what you look like. As long as we can fuck over the poor people or fuck over the black people
Right.
that we collectively don't like, then we're great. We're buddies.
Right.
So
it's seductive. It's
Right.
like, we're listening to you and you're black, and it doesn't matter that you're black because we're listening to you.
right.
And it's like, it draws them in and they don't realize that they're actually like, they're contributing to racism in a way.
Yeah, it's a complex issue.
And that's just what I wanted to throw out.
All right, I appreciate
Because
that.
that's been my experience in DC and Baltimore where I live. And, you know, I don't think people on the left really realize it, in part because they're perpetuating it without noticing. But
Right.
like, you know, as someone, I have worked jobs where I am the only white person on staff.
Mm-hmm.
I have been in friend groups where I'm the only white person there. I try to avoid it. It happens anyway. And just like, I think some of them are often surprised that I'm not like a conservative, a social conservative at least. And, you know, sometimes they're even shocked to learn I'm gay. Because they're like, usually left-wing people are just like talking at us.
Right. Yeah. I think that's a really good point. Anyways,
I wish more people would talk about it.
Yeah, I think it's an important conversation to have.
Maybe I should make content.
Yeah, maybe you should. I don't know. Like, I don't feel super qualified to talk about issues of race on the left because it's not something that I've had to deal with a lot. But it's a conversation I think that needs to happen, and I would love to have this continue. Hopefully, I can find people that can educate me a little bit better and who can have a little more diversity.
I also wanted to say,
Mhm.
black diversity of opinion is crazy. White people got nothing. We go from racist to not racist. Black people go from like literal ethno-fascism to literal like full communism, where I'm like,
oh yeah,
child, chill. It's okay.
I mean, like that. You have people who are like the literal Black Panthers, and what's her name? Who the woman? It's gonna kill me. She's super famous for having that huge fro, and she was like an enemy of the state. I can't think of her name right now. It's like
Angela Davis.
Yes, Angela Davis. God.
Angela Davis. Oh my God, I did not see the huge fro. I need to see it now.
Oh,
I love her.
Iconic
I've
as
got
hell.
quotes of her on my neighbor's yard.
Oh no, iconic as hell. She has like that was like her at her peak.
Oh, that's large. That's bigger than Diana Ross's.
Huge afro, and she's rocking it. It's like A plus. I
love her. It's so weird that she distanced herself from the Communist Party.
I kind of don't blame her, but it's just like you have those people who are full on like Angela Davis, Black Panther, and then you have literal Candace Owens, who is a white supremacy apologist. So it's like,
ugh.
I know Candace Owens. God, we don't speak of her. Fucking.
I don't think Candace Owens is part of the black community. I might point to Diamond and Silk, who feel more authentically black.
She doesn't fucking Diamond and Silk is probably closer. I'm not a fan of them either, but at least they don't pander to fucking white people. Anyways, so our next
Candace, Hitler did nothing wrong. Owens. Anyway, let's continue.
Our next selection here is the Secretary of Energy, former Governor of Michigan, Jennifer Granholm. So I will say that she is kind of the threshold for people I'm actively just not a fan of to people I just don't really know that much about / am kind of meh about. So I
She's beautiful.
I'm gonna say that Jennifer Granholm is probably the most just straight up qualified person that we've talked about so far. There are probably slightly more qualified people than her. My top pick is the most qualified for sure, but she is very qualified. She
Are we?
has a history of energy of dealing with energy issues. She's promoted a lot of renewable energy in her state, and she has written a lot of books on energy policy. Um, she is probably the kind of person is who is what you want for energy reform on a large scale. But
Question.
that's
That question
yes,
is
question.
has the Department of Energy moved from being literally nuclear weapons and nuclear waste disposal to being more broad encompassing energy? Or are we
Yeah,
still
well, so the Department of Energy has always been kind of a weird umbrella. My understanding, I admit to not having done a lot of research on this, but my understanding is that the Department of Energy now covers distribution
well, I
and
see her
holding.
fancy emblem.
Yeah, I mean distribution and holding of energy resources in general, which includes things like oil and natural gas, coal, nuclear, and renewables. Um, it's an old ass department, and I think that a lot of things have just gotten folded into it. But I really think that the from what I can gather, the intent of the Biden administration is to sort of bring it back around and have it be more of a more focus on energy policy, generally speaking. Um,
I like
and
it.
and Granholm being picked for this position suggests to me that that's what they want to do, especially be concentrate on renewables, concentrate on sustainability. Um, but we'll see. The issue that I have with Granholm specifically is that number one, she's from Michigan, and if you have any kind of connection to Detroit, you are sort of your bacon number to the oil industry is 2 at best. So it's like it makes me really nervous. I don't think that she is in the pocket of big motor. I don't think that she's in the pocket of big oil, but I'm suspicious as hell. Um, Also, she's very Obama era. She was originally going to be the Department of Energy secretary under Obama, but for some reason she got overlooked. So that doesn't really make me nervous necessarily, but it feels like it might be kind of an outdated pick. We'll see what happens. I am sort of tentatively watching the Department of Energy because I kind of want to know what happens with her and to see if she actually sort of sticks to her guns. Um, Biden is kind of acting like he's going to, but we'll see how that pans out. So, anyways, next up is Department Secretary of Education. So this is a guy that I don't really know very much about. He is kind of the new kid on the block. He is the state education commissioner for the state of Connecticut, Miguel Cardona. He's the first Latino in this position, and he has a lot of teaching and administrative experience. He was a principal for quite a while. Of course, now he is the state education commissioner, so he's had some sort of large scale education experience. But this is really his like
Imagine having your principal be the Secretary of Education.
right. I know, he also used to be a fourth grade teacher. Um, but this,
Imagine having your teacher be the Secretary of
yeah,
Education.
but he's also sort of the first. This is his first political like big like high like big stakes political position. Connecticut is not a big state, so educate so like it's I'm sure the experience is comparable, but it's not really quite the same. But the biggest issue that I have here is that he's a I don't know that he's a non-union teacher, but he's not part of union leadership. And it's very common. My understanding is, unless you are Trump and you pick fucking Betsy DeVos, that the Department of Education often will kind of reach out to the teachers unions and try to find someone that they agree on. He is not really involved with
I
either of the
wish.
teachers unions, and I don't really love that he's a compromise pick. But at the same time, I think that he'll probably keep everyone happy. So
How the fuck did the Senate confirm Betsy DeVos?
I don't fucking know.
How did that happen?
I don't fucking
Did
know.
nobody said no?
It's just
Nobody made a convincing argument?
I mean, I'm pretty sure a lot of people did, but it didn't matter. God, Betsy DeVos. So that's the one thing I will say is that it will be nice to see a Secretary of Education that actually cares about educating children. So, anyways, We'll see. He's largely an unknown, so I am curious to sort of see what happens with him. But it's a big old question
Literally
mark.
2 Republicans voted no.
Disgusting, disgusting,
It's
disgusting.
disgusting.
Anyways, next
That
up,
alone.
Secretary of Agriculture.
Anyway,
So he actually used to be the Secretary of Agriculture under Obama, and is also the former governor of Iowa, Tom Vilsack. Um, he literally had this job before, and
if
he
he had this
did
job
it.
before, I'm looking forward to seeing how he does. I for
He
the
did it
Biden
for
presidency,
8 years.
I intend to pay a closer attention
Mhm.
to what each like cabinet position is doing, because like not doing it under Trump or doing it in like a punitive sense,
Right,
I guess,
right.
was like that was really exhausting and
Oh
not fun at
yeah,
all.
yeah. I agree.
And I feel like going back to like, oh, they passed a policy that made it easier to like farm corn in this specific district.
Right.
That that is suddenly interesting again, because it's like, what are you
Yeah.
going to do to undo that, and
Right.
what are you going to do to like make it better?
Yeah. I mean,
Because
yeah.
one of the criticisms that's being levied against this administration is they're not going to push us forward. They're just going to return us back to where we were.
Right.
And I would like to see how the cabinet contributes towards actually pushing us into the future.
So I mean, we'll
I would
talk.
like to see it.
I'll talk about a few specific instances, but generally speaking, my guess is it's going to be a mixed bag, and I think that this is one of the examples of where it's going to be more mixed. uh, that he's had this job before, and it's probably going to be kind of business as usual. Which with agriculture is probably okay, but the biggest concern that I have is adapting to climate change, and we'll see what he does.
Yes,
The only
I
con that I
agree
could
with that.
the only con that I could think of for him is that he is very much from Iowa, so he may be a corn demon. So we need to be a little careful about letting
Well, he
corn.
looks like a corn demon.
Yeah, we need to be a little careful about letting corn
He looks like a
demons
corn demon.
govern. So we'll see. I don't know. I don't know.
Well, you joke, but I think that these past 4 years has really shown us that corn demons do exist.
Yeah,
Trump is not a corn demon, but he did associate with corn demons,
that he
and we got
did.
to see them, you know, exert their corn demon powers over the. I mean, that said, being a
Mhm.
corn demon really gives him an edge in the overall true power rankings in
Yeah,
terms of who would win in a fight.
that's true.
So like, I would look forward to watching him, use his like put the corn demon energy on full display,
It would be interesting to say the least.
especially comparing with Pete Buttigieg's powerful cleric spells.
Yeah, no kidding. All right, so next up is the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development. So this is U.S. Representative from Ohio's 11th District, which I believe is sort of in the northeast of Ohio, near the Great Lakes. She is actually also used to be a mayor of a sort of small community up there. This is Marcia Fudge. She is another fairly
Oh, I love
new.
her.
She's another fairly new person who has been brought into the Biden fold. That said, she is a woman of color, which we love to see. It's like, honestly, I basically think that you should pretty much only pick black women as for housing and urban development because they are disproportionately affected by the issues that are
Yes.
caused by HUD, and there just needs to be someone who's sympathetic to that in this position. So I universally think that there always needs to be a black woman until housing in America is solved. There needs to be a black woman in
Oh,
this
here's
position.
something I don't like. She is apparently from Ohio 11.
Yes, she is. That is
I'm nervous
correct.
about that.
I
I'm
don't really
nervous
know
about
much
that.
about Ohio 11. Is there something particular that you know about that?
Just Ohio
Yeah,
in
it is
general.
Ohio. I feel you. I feel you on that. I don't know. I mean,
I'm nervous that, well, I mean, I feel like it could be good. I'm looking at her Ballotpedia now because you can do that. And it looks like she has been education in the workforce, agriculture, biotechnology, horticulture. It doesn't look like it's her wheelhouse. However, I do appreciate that she probably has the right issues on the mind.
I
And
think that
you know,
I think that her local government experience and the fact that she's fairly progressive overall is going to work in her advantage. It's another one of those positions where I see it as a learning curve, where she has particular experience that makes sense for this position, but is not that doesn't match. So I think that I'm curious to see what Marcia does. I think that it will be a good fit overall, and I don't know. HUD is a tricky department. It's a mess and a tangle of a lot of programs that are really old and outdated and that need a lot of TLC. So, and it's a lot of like
I hope.
working. It's a lot of like on the ground work.
Mhm.
So I really hope that she can sort of bring that experience to the table to make it work more efficiently.
One thing that I really like about people who are fairly progressive or even like moderately progressive
Hmm.
is that they are willing to change things.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
They are willing to take something that isn't working and make it work.
And I.
Now, she is fairly old
Mhm.
compared to like what I might expect from a millennial.
Right.
She has her degrees from the 70s and 80s, but that could work in her favor. It could. I really would like to see more millennials in this cabinet,
I agree.
personally,
I agree.
because I think making that transition of power, especially when you have fucking Joe Biden as your president,
Who is just
he is
ancient.
boomer personified.
Yeah.
He is boomer, and you need to prove that you're not just gonna be the boomer's last gasp. And
Right.
Buttigieg was a great attempt, but so far I have not seen. I've seen two people who appear younger than 40.
Right.
No, not younger than 40, younger than 50.
Right. I mean,
Darker
it's an
hair.
old cabinet. It's an old cabinet. I will say that much. Um, Speaking of, well, actually, Secretary of Health and Human Services. Um, I'm pretty sure this is Javier Becerra, who is the California Attorney General. So this is one of the weirdest picks I think in the cabinet. But if you look into
You
his
did not switch the slide queen.
oh, oh, I thought I did. Has it switched now? Do you see it?
Yes.
Oh, okay. It might be the lag. I'm really laggy today, unfortunately. So Javier
Well,
Becerra,
I mean, your stream has a delay, but
yeah. So Health and Human Services, California Attorney General. So my biggest problem with him is that he's not a doctor. It seems like a weird pick in the middle of a pandemic to have someone with no medical background. But
yeah,
that said, if you
maybe
look,
Fauci turned it down.
yeah, probably. If you look at his experience, he is basically has been a legal activist in the state of California for especially healthcare, and minority rights and healthcare access, as well as abortion, which is great. So I think that he ultimately will probably be a pretty good administrator. What I hope and pray for is that he rounds up a bunch of doctors and just kind of says, "Tell me what I need to do, and I will make it happen." Um, I don't know
One
much about him
thing
other than
that
that,
I
though.
do have, one thing that I do hate is
Mhm.
when people talk about getting like more technocrats and more, doctors and,
Mhm.
nurses and people who do jobs onto government is like, that's not your job. Your job is not to be a plumber in Congress. Your job is to talk about legal restrictions surrounding plumbing. And yeah, having plumbing experiences is great, but you're not going to have a great time if your only qualification for being Secretary of Health and Human Services is knowing a lot about Health and Human Services. Because in my experience, just reading about what's happened
Mhm.
and who's done what,
Mhm.
especially I've been reading a lot about management
Mhm.
lately and management in private companies.
Right.
And a lot of the time, like, people prefer to have managers who are like part of the departments that they're managing.
Right.
But what also ends up happening is people don't like when, your manager is basically just someone who got promoted because they were really good at their job and now they're trying to manage other people
Mhm.
to and they have their own way of doing things and they don't really listen to anybody else because they think they know better.
Right.
And then also on top of that, they don't really know how to manage,
Right.
so they're just sort of trying to do whatever they think about and hope it works.
Well, no. So I agree with you on that. My mother, so she worked for an engineering company for a really long time, for about 10 years, and she has like her master's in public administration. She is a manager by career, and her just constant frustration was that a lot of the people that she worked with were just engineers who had been promoted into these managerial positions, and they just didn't know how to manage. And so I totally agree with you. I think for the most part it's not a great fit, but in this department specifically, in this particular time, I think that medical knowledge is really important. Generally speaking, I don't know that I would agree with that, but in this particular instance,
See,
I don't know. I don't know.
my political philosophy is you can have someone tell you
That's true.
about medical knowledge.
That's true.
But what you can't do is ask someone constantly about how to write laws and how to control the department.
Yeah, no, you're right about
You
that.
can't do that.
I agree. I don't know.
Your whole job can't be asking other people how best to politically go about
Right.
executing health and human services.
Right.
That's your job.
Right. I don't know.
Your job is to take what exists
I will
and
say,
turn it into something.
I will say overall, I think I like this choice. I like to see someone who is an activist in this position. I think it's super important.
I do.
I think it's super important for
I'm defending him.
healthcare
I
in
think
the
you
U.S.
should have put him higher. Sorry,
Well,
I've been drinking.
no, that's okay. That's okay. Well, we'll see why.
We're gonna have more fun the longer this goes.
We'll see why he's where he is. All right, so this is going to be a quickie. Secretary of Labor Marty Walsh, Mayor of Boston.
Unions.
Basically, the only thing I have to say about him is that he's from fucking Boston, where unions just have never gone away. So
I think I know him actually.
Marty Walsh.
I think I've heard of him.
Oh yeah, he's a big deal in Boston.
Marty.
Yeah, Marty. Good old Marty Walsh. He's a big deal in Boston. He's not universally loved.
I think I know his mother.
He's not universally loved, but I think that he will have. I think that he's really a good pick for Labor. He's basically pretty much only a Bostonian, a blue collar Bostonian with political experience. He's pretty much the only person in the United States who I think can actually promote labor or promote union labor in the U.S. So
How do I know him?
100%
I know
on
him
board with
for
Marty Walsh.
100%. I know him.
You've
How
met
did I know him? No. I didn't meet him.
I mean, he is.
I would definitely not meet him.
He is like the mayor of one of the biggest cities in the U.S., so that's probably part
Oh,
of
he's
it.
the mayor. Okay, that
He's
makes
the mayor of
sense.
Boston. Yeah. All right, another quickie.
Okay,
Good old Merrick
Merrick.
Garland.
Hey, Queen.
So, former D.C. Circuit Judge, or current D.C. Circuit Judge, and failed Supreme Court nominee Merrick Garland. Literally, the only reason I like them and why he's ranked this high is because he is the pettiest pick possible. I think he's kind of.
Here's why I like him.
Mm-hmm.
I like him because he's the talk about unity is the speak soft, and then Merrick Garland is the big stick. And you know I love a Teddy Roosevelt. Speak softly and carry a big stick, because they know that if they step out of line and they don't go along, they've got an attorney general that fucking hates their guts for doing exactly what they would be doing to obstruct a Biden presidency.
Good point.
I cannot think of a better pick for attorney general.
Good point.
The
Yeah, I don't know.
pettiness.
I'm pretty on board with Merrick Garland, broadly speaking. I don't like. I think he's a little boring, but I can get over it. I don't know. We'll see. I'm curious.
Well,
to see
I mean,
what
I don't know Merrick
does.
Garland very well. I don't know him very well. I would like to see him kind of implicitly, maybe indirectly, prove that he would be kind of a cudgel.
Mm-hmm.
Because if he's going along with the unity rhetoric, I don't like it, because he can be.
We'll see. It's hard to say who's going to
Uncontroversial
or not. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Okay, so we're getting to the top three here. Number 3 is the Secretary of the Treasury, good old Janet Yellen. She is probably one of the.
We love Yellen.
Yeah, we love Janet Yellen. She has been in this sector forever and ever and ever, and she is the current director of the Fed. She is a Keynesian, which is basically that the takeaway there, I mean, it's more complex than this, is that she really cares that people have jobs and that the market is stable more than just like that companies are making money.
Capitalism is surviving.
Yeah, it's much more about that
profits.
Like that the human capital and that the system itself is robust than it is about. It's much more about stabilizing sort of the natural up and down of capitalism. Which, like, if we're gonna have it, that's how I want it to be. Um, and she doesn't give a shit about
Is that
inflation. It's just we love
is
this.
that the political philosophy behind like Germany and the Nordic model and like
Uh
like
yeah. I mean,
socialism?
you can look at socialism through a Keynesian lens, I suppose. I am no expert in economics, I will tell you that much. But from the research that I did about it, I could see how it would be compatible. Um, but yeah, no, Janet Yellen's great. I think that she did a good job at the Fed. I think that she helped keep the market stable prior to COVID, and I think that she'll do a good job at the Treasury Department. I hope that also being a former Fed director is super important because it means that you understand just like how cash flow works in the federal government. So I'm looking forward to her. I think that it's
One
going to be a good fit.
one thing I don't like about Keynesian economics
Mm-hmm.
is that it can it I think Keynesian economics is the cause of the feeling that everybody is middle class
Yeah,
because
I think you're
Keynesian
probably right
is
about
very
that.
anti-savings.
Right.
And so, I mean, my job now, I work with business owners.
Mm-hmm.
80% of those people are living paycheck to paycheck.
Right.
It's not good.
Right. Yeah.
Everybody is living the same life no matter how much money they're making. And so there's this, and while I think Keynesian economics should be supported in that, I think supporting the money flow at the lowest levels and making sure everybody has enough to do surplus things
Mm-hmm.
is really important.
Mm-hmm.
I think Keynesian economics has interrupted the natural flow of like crafting a nice little stable life for yourself and having savings to deal with emergencies.
So I think that the issue here, it ironically, because Keynesian economics is sort of a macroeconomics, it's sort of a macroeconomics philosophy, but I think it
Right.
comes down to like, or yeah, no, I guess it is macroeconomics philosophy. I think it's macroeconomics versus microeconomics, and the macroeconomics applications of Keynesian economics works great in the macro level, but you can't just expect the microeconomic sector to just be
Sort
perfect.
itself out.
Yeah. So
Absolutely.
you need to have a microeconomics approach underneath that in order to fix that
Hmm.
to prop things up. I don't know. We'll see.
And I mean, I like it because I like that it keeps the focus on the people.
Right.
I think that the great man theory of social development has had its day and been proven wrong.
Right.
I think Ayn Rand deserves to be tossed in the garbage.
Yeah, for sure.
And um, I think Keynesian economics really puts the focus on everybody working together, which I really like.
Yeah.
But I also don't like that Keynesian economics sort of it has elements of fascism in it where it's like everybody's working together, but also your life doesn't matter and the good of the people is more important than the good of the individual, which is like ugh, that's scary. It's scary.
I mean, I think if you have a robust microeconomic policy to prop up the
It's true.
macroeconomics, then it works out. I don't know. I'm not an economist. Anyways, let's talk about this is my narrow second place pick. She is almost in any other circumstance she would be first place, but the new Secretary of the Interior, who I stand openly, the U.S. Representative from New Mexico's first district, good old Deb
She
Haaland,
has no downsides, and I
zero.
agree wholeheartedly.
Love this woman. First, okay, number one,
Why?
first Native American in a
How is
cabinet
she the
position.
first
First.
Native American in a cabinet position when we have the Secretary of Interior to deal with Native
I don't
American
know.
tribes?
I don't know.
It escapes me.
I don't know. She's advocated openly for Native rights in New Mexico, especially particularly land use. She is
I need
straight
to
up
get up and walk around because
go for it.
she is such a queen.
Go for
She
it.
is such a queen.
She is straight
That
up
like
just uncontroversially progressive. Like no bones about it, just she's just progressive.
she has declared that the right thing to do is the correct thing to do, and she
Right.
is
Right.
here
Right.
to tell you what the right thing to
Right.
do is.
Right.
And I could not stand more.
And she is
I
about
truly
to
couldn't.
she is literally about to take the most boring department, like the interior. Who the fuck cares about this department, the U.S. Department of the Interior? Goddamn nobody. She is about to take the
I
most
do.
boring department
I do.
and make it into the best department. She's talented, brilliant, incredible, amazing, show-stopping, spectacular. We love her. We'd love to have Holland.
Never been done before. Unafraid to reference or be referenced.
I am
Oh my God. So
so ready for this.
my mother used to work in Congress. Don't tell anybody because she tells me not to tell anybody. But I'm going to tell
Okay.
all you, my loyal followers and loyal viewers, and the loyal viewers of jerichi.ttv. She worked with the Secretary of the Interior. She was a legislative assistant for a congressman I will not name.
Mm-hmm.
And she worked, did legislative assistant things.
Right.
And one of the things that she was so frustrated about with the Interior
Mm-hmm.
was that the people who were there at the time that she
Mm-hmm.
worked
Mm-hmm.
truly did not care about Native American reservations.
Oh, I'm sure.
They truly did not care
Oh,
about
yeah.
Native American rights.
Oh, yeah.
They were there because it was their little desperate stronghold of political power that they had access to.
Right.
And I thought that was so sad. And that's been the tradition for that department
I
for
believe it. I mean,
since then.
If
Since
you look,
the 80s.
if you look at just sort of how the department has functioned, that's basically what it is. And I'm hoping that Deb Haaland can just come in and just shake shit up, because that's what needs to happen. I hope that she
I hope
goes.
she kills someone.
Honestly, I like my big thing is, and I'm sure she probably will do this, and I really hope she does. I have not seen speculation of it, but I would be surprised if she didn't. Is that she walks into the Library of Congress and she says, "You give me the original treaties for every single Native American tribe that has ever existed that the United States set a treaty with. You put them on the table right here, and we're gonna sit. We're gonna read them. We're gonna read them." And we're gonna make sure that everything is correct, that we're actually abiding by these treaties, and then we're gonna go back to these tribal councils and we're gonna say, "Hey, these weren't right. Let's fix it." I really fucking hope that
The
happens.
charisma,
I really
the
fucking hope that
uniqueness,
happens,
the nerve,
because
the
that is
talent.
it is literally 200 years overdue. This shit has been going on for so goddamn long, and there has not been anyone in the Department of Interior, and it's 150-year history who has been there.
I'm gonna faint.
And has been someone who will stand up for the people whose land was literally robbed from them. So it's just like, I'm so ready for this.
I want to meet her. I want to shake her hand.
I know, isn't she great?
Oh
I
my
fucking
God.
love her.
I want to suck her dick.
So,
Oh my God.
anyways,
I would do anything for her.
We're going to.
If she told me to get down on the floor so that she could step on my neck, I would do it
100% agree.
without hesitation.
100% agree.
I love her so much.
So, anyways, we're gonna put a little bit of a pause on the Deb Haaland Stan Hour. We will be coming back to her in future episodes, I'm sure. We're gonna be watching her like a hawk because we just love to see everything she does. And we're gonna move on to honestly, this is a tie. I'm gonna call this a tie because I feel weird about this. Secretary of State, Obama Department Secretary, Obama Deputy Secretary of State, Antony Blinken. Literally, I don't even know anything about this man. I know basically nothing about him. Dustin sort of insinuated that he's good. I really know nothing about him. Literally, the only reason I care is that he is an actual career diplomat in the highest diplomatic position in like 25 years. It's just like, how the fuck did we have a non-diplomat?
Especially with the Secretary of State.
It's just like,
especially with the Secretary of State.
I mean, the Secretary of State in the Trump administration, just a disaster, just all around disaster.
Yeah,
but that's
okay,
normal.
we're even ignoring that.
During the 8 years of Obama, it was literally just whoever the DNC wanted. It wasn't like, this is the person who's most qualified. It was just like, here's a washed-up politician that we want to keep in the spotlight. And then, like, Hillary Clinton.
Oh, my God. And it's like, I mean, Hillary Clinton I can accept. Because Hillary Clinton at least was a career diplomat.
Like, I was okay with that. But it's just like, at the same time...
I was upset about it at the time because I didn't think she did a good job. But then I saw, like, what she actually did.
She did fine.
Like, I think part of it was that a lot of the good parts were kind of veiled for national security reasons.
Yeah.
And I only got to learn about those things until after. And so she was running in 2016, and I was like, who does this bitch think she is? What did she do that was worthy of praise? And now I know, like, all the shit that she did that was worthy of praise.
Right.
Like, she was practically responsible for half the Obama administration's successes.
Yeah. No.
To be honest,
genuinely.
diplomatically.
But like, the issue is just that I am a big proponent of the Foreign Service in general, and I think one of the issues that the Foreign Service has is that it's really divorced from the rest of the U.S. government, and a lot of the problem is that the DOS just the State Department doesn't really do much for them. And so it's just good to have someone who is genuinely a diplomat, who really
Right.
cares about IR, and
Secretary of
who's
State needs to be about advocating for the U.S. state and U.S. government abroad.
right, right.
That's what it's for,
It's about
and that's what it needs to
diplomacy.
do.
It's about diplomacy, and I want to see diplomacy
Well,
put first.
I think people get confused because they're like, it's the Secretary of State. It's like the third in line or whatever. So they're like, we'll just put whoever we think would be a decent president up in here.
Right,
And it's
and
like, no,
no,
that's not what
you
that's
need
about.
someone who has like actual diplomacy experience. So ultimately, it's really not even necessarily about him. It's not even necessarily about Anthony Blinken because again, I don't really know the guy, but I think that his department is going to do a lot better, and I'm looking forward to how that works out. Oh,
I think
so
that I think that Deb Haaland should have been number one. I'm sorry to this man, but he should have been number two.
let's call it a tie.
Love him.
Let's call it a tie
It's
because
not a tie. It's not.
I okay, all right, I agree. You're right. You're right. Deb Haaland, she has the crown.
Deb Haaland
I gave her a
deserves
crown.
to win.
She's the winner.
She has the crown.
We
You just
are
went gold and then silver. That's all.
we're revising after the fact. They've reviewed the tapes. They've reviewed the tapes, and it turns out that she actually crossed the finish line first. So
Look at her. She's New Mexico's first district. New Mexico's first district is what won the election.
New Mexico's first district is blue as hell, dear. You're thinking of
I
Arizona.
know, but they turned it out.
Well,
Turned. Oh,
you're thinking of
fuck.
You're thinking of Maricopa
I'm thinking
County.
of Arizona.
That's Maricopa County. That's
Arizona.
Arizona. No, New Mexico is blue.
Oh,
New
okay.
Mexico is blue as shit.
I just love Arizona. I just love Maricopa County.
Oh,
Listen,
see, I've never been to
my
Arizona.
family comes from upstate New York.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to say, I've never associated with them. I've never talked with them. I've never learned their lives.
Mm-hmm.
I've never, worked with them. But just kind of living next to them
Mhm.
and being next to them and existing in their space
Mhm.
has given me such great respect for those people. And I think it could not be more deserved that we finally have representation from them because it's been too long.
Mhm.
And it's been so inexcusable that these people have not been allowed to be part of our government.
I agree. Yeah, so I don't know. I'm very happy about. I'm just really happy about Deb Haaland. So I went to New Mexico.
I'm literally about to cry.
I went to New Mexico in December of 2019, right before I moved to Japan, and I've always been really interested in Native American culture in general because it feels like it's sort of and it's sad to say it this way. It feels like it's kind of the secret culture of the United States. And it's not because they make it secret. It's because it's been taken away from them. And it was so eye-opening to go to New Mexico and see the Navajo culture in action and see their amazing museum in, I think it's Albuquerque. And it was just like a revelation. I was just all of a sudden like, what the fuck have we been doing for this long? How the hell have we just thrown these people to the wayside?
It's beautiful.
It's
beautiful.
And so ever since then, I've just been like, this needs to happen. And even before then, I was really on board with it. But I'm so happy to see someone who is in it to win it, who is really part of the Native American community, who is going to be there for them and going to work for them.
Yeah.
So
so unlike the Black community. I think progressives feel very uncomfortable speaking for and stepping up to defend the Native American community.
Right. I understand it. I get why.
In part because I don't know anything about them, but I know already. I don't know anything about the details. I'll say it that way.
Mm-hmm.
They are so diverse.
Oh,
and
100%.
So amazing.
It was an entire continent. So beautiful. An entire continent worth of cultures who have unfortunately been reduced.
And so it's hard to say Native Americans want this.
Oh,
because at the end of the day, all Native Americans want to be represented and shown and to have everybody pay attention to them and to feel like their culture can be brought into the modern age. Because I think a lot of the time...
Go ahead.
They've been left behind in a literal sense.
Right.
Where they've been clinging to their culture so tightly that they have not allowed it to advance and progress. They have not allowed it to be brought into an internet age where they can share their art and their music and their culture with other people. And all they've been relegated to by the dominant culture on our continent is a sideshow,
Right.
this sort of historical. Like, could you imagine if white people
Hmm.
were only allowed to like share their Beethoven symphonies
Right.
and their fucking French cave art?
Right. Yeah.
It'd be disgusting.
Right. I know. I agree.
Oh my
Anyways,
god, I'm gonna cry. I'm gonna
okay. All
cry.
right. Let's move on. Let's move on. So I have two so I didn't want to talk about the cabinet level positions. There's like another six of them. Most of them are really uninteresting. But I have two dishonorable mentions. Number one, the director of
Oh,
the Office of Budget and
dishonorable mention.
Management. One of them is honorable. One of them is
Uh
dishonorable. This is the dishonorable one. Who the fuck let Neera Tanden in? Who the fuck let her in? Why? Like, why are we talking about this woman? Like she is like the most, oh my god. I
Lip
can't
shit.
fucking deal with this woman. Why? 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 It's just I don't understand. She
Woman.
she pretends to be a progressive. She is literally the president of the Center for American Progress. And then you'll hear her interviewed and she's just like, "Well, I don't really want to do that cuz I'm just so worried that if we piss off the Republicans, it's just going to be so hard for us." And it's just like, "Girl, no, piss them off. Who the fuck cares?" Like, what are you here for? I'm pretty sure that she's literally just here to make money, and that she is like,
No.
I,
You know what it is? They wanted to check off the brown woman.
I
She's from
guess
Indian
so.
immigrant parents.
I guess so.
They wanted
Except
to check it off. They couldn't find anybody better.
I guess so. I don't know. She's just like she's not progressive. Not even not at all. She's barely even a liberal. She is just like she is a fence sitter who dresses herself up in liberal
Jareg
trappings.
was warning us about this.
I I don't Neera Tanden. I am not a fan. So I mean, she is thankfully
It'd
in
be
one of
like,
the least impactful departments in
you
the
know what this is?
administration. Go for it.
You know what this is? This is they couldn't they couldn't convince Tulsi Gabbard to abandon her position of power in Hawaii,
That's
so they
actually
had to pick
probably
the next
right.
best thing.
That's probably right.
I
She's
wish they
basically
could have
discount Tulsi
gotten.
Gabbard. That's basically correct.
I wish they could have gotten Tulsi Gabbard. I wish Tulsi
Oh,
Gabbard had said, "Okay,
Jesus.
I'll go to the Office of Budget and
Oh
Management."
my god.
Could you imagine if the Hawaiian people could elect someone who was actually good?
You know, it's funny because like Mazie Hirono, like their senators are amazing, but it's just for some reason people keep voting for fucking Tulsi Gabbard. I don't know why. Is there no one
True.
better?
It's true.
I don't
Is there no
understand.
one better? Is there no one better?
So our honorable mention here is the Director of National Intelligence, who is the former Deputy NatSec Advisor and
Oh,
CIA Deputy Director, Avril Haines. Um, I'm not a big fan
oh,
of the
we
U.S. intelligence
stand.
community, but I kind of love her. She works under Blinken, so she will probably work well with DOS, which is great. We like to see State Department cooperation. She has a shitload of experience in the intelligence community in like pretty much every single position. She's also the first woman to hold this role, and she used to do erotic fiction readings at her husband's bookstore. I'm very excited about her in general because I would like to see someone who just can come into the intelligence community and just sort of shake everyone by the shoulders and be like, you need to get your shit together. Like we need to do that. We need to
Right.
like do intelligence for like the good of the world and the country, and not just to like serve your own stupid ends. Like we need to actually like do some meaningful intelligence work.
Yeah, I would
So
say that. I would say that. I mean, it's not necessarily for the good of the people. Maybe I wouldn't go that far, but I would definitely say like we need to do this efficiently.
right, right.
That was the vibe that I
I
got from her.
I'm down. I'm down. I mean, in the intelligence community, like my con here, she's still a spy. Like the
It's so
intelligence
bad.
community is still the intelligence community. It's just like it's gonna be fucked up
It
no
is
matter what
the
you do.
intelligence community.
No
It's
matter
going to
what,
be fucked up no matter what you
yeah,
do.
no matter what you do, it's gonna be fucked up. But if there's at least someone who can kind of keep everyone's sort of eye on the prize a little bit and make it so they're not like doing really fucked up shit all the time.
We're going to escape.
So
I don't think we're going to escape the legacy of J. Edgar Hoover,
I mean, no.
but we are taking a step away from him.
J. Edgar Hoover so thoroughly defined
He's a
the
black
DNA of the CIA and even the FBI. Honestly, let's be honest about that. That there's no way to get out of it until literally everyone who has worked in the intelligence community between like 1960 and like
Right.
2011 is just dead. So
He was a literal cultural reset for
Right.
those people, and
Right.
they worship him, even if they don't want to admit it.
So I mean, it is what it is. But I don't know. We'll see. I'm excited to sort of see what happens with it. I don't know. But anyways, so that's my final pick.
I don't expect that much, but
Yeah.
because here's what's going to happen with the NatSec community. We're not going to see any of it.
Oh, of course not. No. I mean, that's
And
how
that's
it works.
the God's honest truth.
That's how it works.
No one's going to know.
Right. That's how it works. So we'll
But
see.
I think she's going to do it right.
I hope.
I think she's going to do it right. I have high hopes.
And she won't pull a Comey.
No, she will not. I hate Comey.
God,
I
me
hate
too.
him so
Me
much.
too.
That bitch made us think for 2 seconds that he was on the side of justice and peace, and he truly betrayed us all.
No, he just was serving his own
It was
ends.
so bad.
He was covering his ass, and it was just
He
he
was-
did it the worst way.
He is. Oh my God! It's hard to like understate how bad he has been for the country in general,
Mhm.
not just in the whole Trump thing, but in almost everything that he has done. Pretty
Well,
much almost
and
ever.
God, I saw him interviewed again, and he just like he just fence sat again. He's just like, well, I think
He's
that
the
it's
worst.
just- yeah, no,
He doesn't
I'm-
want anyone to know what he wants or
Mhm.
what he's doing, which is classic for the national intelligence community, but
Right.
also the things that he wants that he's hiding from us are really bad.
Right.
They're not good.
All right. Well, anyways, so that is the end. This ended up being a little lengthier than